to the June 8th, 2022 City Council Work Session. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format we're using as our state and community continue to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. And thank you for joining us. And just a note to the viewing audience that we are, city manager and several councilors are Zooming in for this, and there are a few of us in the room. So the room may look pretty empty, but there are a lot of people on Zoom. And so with that, I guess I will turn it over to the city manager to introduce the topic.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. So today we're talking about growth monitoring, which I'm really excited. I'll be turning it over in just a minute to Heather and Elena, but wanted to just mention that all through the Envision Eugene work, a lot of the conversation kind of would always come back to, well, we need to really see how this goes. And a lot of people's hopes and concerns were all pinned to growth monitoring. So these guys have been working really hard on this over the last few years. They've been working with also with a group, which you'll hear about, but it's, I think, really great work and kind of feels really significant milestone in the Envision Eugene work. So with that, I'll turn it over to Heather.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to steal 1 minute of intro time before I hand it over to Heather. My name is Terry Harding.
Perfect.
I'm the principal planner for long range planning. And I'm going to literally echo what you just said, Sarah. Today is a big day in the progress of realizing our community vision as we present the first Envision Eugene Growth Monitoring Report to you. Some of you are here for the 2012 Envision Eugene recommendation, which included the 7 pillars and championed the concept of a robust and comprehensive growth monitoring system. In July 2015, Council initiated the program, directing staff to provide the first report within 3 years of urban growth boundary adoption. The UGB was acknowledged in early 2018, and we have learned so much in the last 4 years. Developing a full-fledged program took longer than expected, and we developed an understanding of what would be entailed and how to keep the program running effectively going forward. Additionally, new state rules now require Eugene to revisit our UGB housing needs every 8 years. So we have a state framework to fit our program into. Eugene is leading the way in Oregon growth management planning with this new program. And now I'll hand it over to Heather to introduce the stellar growth monitoring team and walk you through the highlights of our first comprehensive report. Okay. And you'll have it in a second.
Well, while that's coming up, good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and audience online and in person. We're excited to share. Actually, I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. We're excited to share the growth monitoring report with you today. This report and the program are the result of a truly collaborative effort over several years between several city divisions. And as such, we've got lots of people on hand, and I'll take a moment to introduce everyone. So I'm Heather O'Donnell, Senior Planner with the Planning Division, and I'm the Growth Monitoring Program Manager. Presenting with me on Zoom is Elena Domingo, Assistant Planner with the Planning Division. On hand for questions are Mina Roth, Project Manager with the Information Services Division, Thea Evans, GIS Planner with the Planning Division, Ann Fifield, Economic Strategies Manager with the Community Development Division. And on Zoom is Kevin Shanley, who is Vice Chair of the Envision Eugene Technical Advisory Committee. And since not everyone is here today that has contributed, I'd like to give a big shout out and thank you to the rest of the city team and the advisory committee members. Just making sure. So today we'll briefly review the program background and overall lessons learned. The main focus will be key takeaways from the report, which we'll discuss for each topic area. We'll also focus on the report's recommendations and the emerging issues. We'll touch on next steps for the program and also for UGB planning. And at the end, we'll share a sneak peek of the community data dashboard we've been working really hard to get going. While this presentation covers a wide variety of topics, we'll go ahead and go through the entire presentation and then come back at the end for any of the questions in any of the areas. So with that, as detailed in your meeting materials, the 2012 Envision Eugene recommendation and the comprehensive plan policies adopted with the 2017 urban growth boundary provide the foundation for the program. The program was specifically set up to monitor assumptions and data related to urban growth boundary analysis. However, another goal of the program is to support other related city work, such as those that are on the slide, which also shows that much of our work and policy decisions are interrelated. As you know, vital to the program is our Envision Eugene Technical Advisory Committee, who reviewed the data and the report over several meetings. Kevin Shanley is representing the ETAC and is on Zoom, as I mentioned. Other members include Councillor Ye, Planning Commissioner Tiffany Edwards, Sustainability Commissioner Dennis Reynolds, and several members that are at large, contributing a wide variety of experience and depth. The Planning Commission also reviewed the report, and their discussion points are in the agenda item summary.
So this is a graphic of the monitoring system, which is in your meeting materials. We reviewed the components of the growth monitoring system in detail at your April 14th, 2021 work session. This graphic shows the complexity of the system, a system that was built internally by city staff that pulls all of the data sources into a data warehouse. This system is unique, innovative, and complex, and has a lot of capacity, but its growth is also limited by resource constraints. The data warehouse allows us to create charts for the report that we are going to review today.
So before we get into the details, here are a few overall lessons that we learned. When we first developed the idea of the program, I'll be honest, I thought we'd produce a report clearly indicating whether or not our assumptions were right and when to revisit the urban growth boundary. At almost halfway through the monitoring period of our 20-year UGB, the report really has limited conclusions. In part, that's because 8 years is actually, turns out, not a lot of time. And in part, it's because growth and development trends are pretty complex. Monitoring can flag when things are different than we assumed, and that's what we want it to do. But it may not always present a clear reason why something's different. Additional analysis may still be needed to determine the reasons why during the next UGB review, such as during the next UGB review. We also know we have to have patience. We are creating a foundation for the future. We also have found that the results will not be perfect, but they're reasonable estimates given our resources. There have been anomalies, just a few are listed on the slide, and we'll probably see more anomalies in the future. And we learned that there's a caution when you're looking at the totals. They can tell one story, but the details may actually tell a different story. So you can't look at the data in isolation. A few things to keep in mind as we start digging into some of the key results. The report itself is organized at different levels of detail, so a reader can get the high points from the executive summary, a little more detail from the topic snapshots, or a deeper data dive in the appendices. Regarding the monitoring period that we refer to, while Eugene's UGB was adopted in 2017, it's actually accommodating growth forecasts for the 20-year period of 2012 through 2032. It just took us a few years to complete the review process. So the monitoring period goes back to 2012 and is through July of 2021, which is when we started writing the report. Similarly, keep in mind that some data is not available for every year or every point in time during the monitoring period. So as we go through these results, note that some of the metrics provide general community context, while others are actually assumptions that were adopted with the UGB analysis, and those are indicated with a capital A on these slides. So digging in, starting with population, UGB planning begins with assuming how fast we will grow. Over the monitoring period, Eugene added over 17,000 new Eugenians out of the 20-year forecast for 34,000 new people. This is faster than projected. And so you'll see that in the middle graphic, which shows a 1.2% growth rate from 2012 to 2021, compared to the adopted projection for a 0.9% growth rate from 2012 through 2032. And just to note, the adopted growth rate and future population forecasts are provided by Portland State University in accordance with state rules. So growth is from both births as well as people moving here. We often get the question, who is moving here? There's not a lot of good data on that, but IRS data does show that over the monitoring period, Lane County at least saw more in-migration from other states, and particularly from California, than from other parts of Oregon. Since we adopted the UGB, PSU has also issued a new population forecast. It projects Eugene to grow slower than we did over the monitoring period, but actually at the same rate through 2040 as our adopted rate for 2012 through 2032, and that's that 0.9%. The new forecast shows that after 2040, Eugene's growth rate is actually projected to slow even more to 0.5%. The new forecast for Lane County provides a little more detail than Eugene's forecast, and since Eugene makes up about half of Lane County, we can use it as guidance for Eugene's projections. By 2027, Lane County deaths are projected to outpace births, but growth is still projected because of migration into the county. In addition, older populations will continue to increase, while people in their 20s will continue to be the largest share of the population.
So our household data comes from the census. They do the ACS, or the American Community Survey, every year, which only includes a sample of households, but asks more specific questions versus the decennial census, which occurs every 10 years and includes all households, but doesn't ask the same specific questions. So here we're comparing ACS data to ACS data from 2012 through 2019. We also wanted to note that census data is the most comprehensive that we have, but we recognize that this data is missing people that did not feel comfortable responding or identifying with specific census categories. So there have been minimal changes to household size and composition. Eugene continues to have more non-family households than Lane County and Oregon, most likely due to the presence of the University of Oregon. The Hispanic or Latino population in Eugene increased 48% during the monitoring period. So as of 2019, that population now makes up 10% of the community. Owner and renter households remain at about a 50-50 split, and the pattern of multifamily dwellings having higher renter households has not changed. The percentage of people living in group quarters is lower than at the beginning of the monitoring period and lower than forecast. So some examples of group quarters include jails, dorms, and nursing homes. And this percentage may continue to fluctuate over the coming years, particularly as the population ages. And then Eugene's vacancy rate in 2019 was low at 3.6%, which is consistent with what local appraisers and realtors have anecdotally reported, that vacancy rates are low and getting lower, resulting in a tight rental and home buying market. We've heard recently that it may be down to as low as 1.5%, whereas a healthy market is around 7 to 8%. And then moving on to affordability, the poverty level has decreased over the monitoring period as the national and local economy improved, down to 17% in 2019. But many more households above the poverty level still struggle to afford a bare bones household budget. There was a 31% increase in median household income and a 32% increase in median gross rent. And then the median sales price for single family homes, which includes detached and attached dwellings, has increased 119% since 2012. Even though this number is high, nearby cities have experienced an even higher increase. For example, Springfield had a 176% increase, and Cottage Grove had a 186% increase. there was a 96% increase in 2 to 4 dwelling sales and a 286% increase in 5+ dwelling sales. Cost burden households have slightly decreased, but they still make up 41% of Eugene households. Households are considered cost burden if they pay more than 30% of their income on housing. So 56% of renter households and 25% of owner households are cost burdened. Additionally, there is a shortage of housing available that is affordable at a variety of price points, which is pricing people out of housing across the spectrum, but particularly lower income households.
So moving to jobs, similar to population, UGB planning depends on a forecast for new jobs over a 20-year period. Data through 2018 shows Eugene added about 19,700 jobs, though we recognize that some of those are not new jobs since we were coming off of a recession. UGB planning also includes assumptions about what the mix of new jobs would be, meaning how many of Eugene's new jobs would be commercial, retail, government, or industrial. In 2018, the overall mix of Eugene's jobs matched the mix forecast for new jobs, which was that over half of Eugene's jobs were commercial, non-retail, meaning generally office. And then the remaining jobs were equally split between retail, government, and industrial. So generally on track with the forecast. We are using 2018 data because there's a lag in getting data at the city level. However, in this case, it's actually kind of helpful because it's pre-pandemic data. Like population, during the monitoring period, the county received a new 10-year employment growth forecast, which Eugene can use as guidance. The graphic on the right compares these different growth rates. Eugene's adopted growth rate through 2032 is 1.4%. Eugene saw growth at 3.1% from 2012 through 2018, again, coming off that recession. However, that new Lane County forecast expects job growth to slow to 1.4% through 2030, which, similar to population, it actually matches Eugene's adopted rate. So moving to housing building permit data. This map shows new housing over the monitoring period through July of 2021. Multifamily is the larger red dots. There are concentrations downtown and along Franklin Boulevard, which I think we've all seen. But larger apartment developments are also apparent throughout the city. Single-family detached housing is shown in the yellowish dots. Those are harder to see because they're just one dot for one unit, but again, they occurred throughout the city. So I'm going to move into a lot of information here. Over the monitoring period, new housing in gross numbers is on pace, with 53% of the forecast has been met, or about 8,000 of the 15,000 dwellings needed. In looking at the details, there's a little different story. First, the forecast for 15,000 new dwellings is only to address population growth through 2032. Existing deficiencies in the housing supply and housing affordability are still issues, as is reflected in the report's recommendations. In addition, new housing was 27% single family and 72% multifamily, compared to the forecast for 55% single family and 37% multifamily. So, does that mean the housing mix was wrong? Not necessarily. Economic cycles are often more favorable for one housing type than another, and other factors may be playing a role. We are in a period of significant large multifamily construction. In fact, 93% of new multifamily is in buildings with 5 or more dwellings, whereas we saw low production of those middle housing types. Additionally, 35% of new multifamily has been identified as potentially student-oriented housing. I want to make a note here that the housing type terminology that I've been using will be updated during the next reporting cycle to match the recent middle housing code amendments discussion. Regarding density, new housing has generally been denser than the forecast, though it's not a straight comparison because density data is collected differently now. That said, the highest densities were about 80 dwellings per acre on commercial land and in buildings with 5 or more dwellings, which is not really surprising. Some land types were also lacking new density data. That's mostly our sloped land, and that's because 92% of our new dwellings occurred on flat land. Turning to how many of these new dwellings were from efficiency measures or development incentives, these are actions the city takes to facilitate more compact development than would otherwise occur, thereby minimizing a UGB expansion as required by state law. Examples include changes to the land use code regulations, reduced permit fees, or tax relief. In total, 68% of the forecast for efficiency measured dwellings has been met. So in total, we're on pace. But again, there are differences for individual efficiency measures and in certain comprehensive plan designations. So for example, on pace is multifamily downtown and accessory dwellings since the credits for offsetting system development charges were adopted. Off pace is low density housing in the Crow Road area out West 11th, which doesn't yet have the utilities needed for annexation and development. And also off pace is the multiple unit property tax exemption program, or MUPD, which has been used very little since it was revamped in 2013, although we have an asterisk there that excludes the recent approval for the riverfront redevelopment, which is actually not included in this report. So regarding the type and amount of land that developed with housing, over the monitoring period, 41% of new housing was on land considered already fully developed in our land inventory, compared to a forecast for 23%. And then 48% of the new housing through this type of redevelopment was on commercial land. It is noted that redevelopment is particularly difficult to predict, and that was the case during the UGB analysis, but we're now getting real-time redevelopment data, which will help during the next UGB review. Overall, 47%, so almost half of new dwellings were on commercial and high-density residential land. In comparison, low and medium density lands only developed 18% and 26% of their estimated buildable land supply. This is in part because utilities are needed to serve more of Eugene's low and medium density lands, whereas most high density and commercial land is already served. So this was interesting fact. In total, 510 residential acres were developed with over 5,400 dwellings, compared to 33 commercial acres developing with 2,300 dwellings.
Employment development also happened in many areas of the city, as you can see on the map, and the colors indicate the permits by monitoring subcategory. There was a total of 327 employment permits, which include permits for new development, redevelopment, and additions, and a little over 2 million net new building square feet. As part of the urban growth boundary analysis, we adopted a portfolio of large industrial sites, but at this point, none of them have developed. This isn't surprising though, because many of these lots are within the UGB expansion area and are unannexed. The employees per acre, or the density of jobs on a development site, is similar to the adopted forecast in all categories. Efficiency measures have not yet succeeded in spurring the employment development as intended. We've only seen 17 acres of the 174 forecast developed using efficiency measures. Example of employment efficiency measures include the downtown and riverfront urban renewal districts and the E1 and E2 employment zones. Of the 17 acres developed with efficiency measures, 12 were in the West Eugene Enterprise Zone, which actually wasn't a formally adopted efficiency measure, but is something that we are monitoring. And then employment land in total 276 acres developed with employment development out of the 1,457 forecast, which is only 19%. Like housing, there has been more employment development on developed land than expected, so 90% of the developed forecast has already been met. And as I mentioned with the large lot portfolio, about half of the industrial forecast acres are in the UGB expansion area and are not served with utilities needed for annexation and development at this time.
As part of the monitoring report, we also reran the buildable lands inventory to check the status of Eugene's land supply as of today. And when I say we, I mean Thea Evans. The 2021 buildable lands snapshot shows that for the buildable acres of residential land, 43% are on sloped lots. 40% are unannexed, and over half, 54%, are on lots smaller than 5 acres in size. For employment land, the buildable acres were 58% unannexed. And for when you break that further down for industrial, it's 63%. And again, some of that, a large part of that has to do with the Clear Lake expansion area not being annexed yet. To get a ballpark estimate of whether our land supply, quote unquote, today could meet a new 20-year demand if we started UGB planning right now, we used the most recent population and employment forecasts that I mentioned earlier as the new 20-year demand and compared that to the estimated capacity in this 2021 BLI snapshot that we just reran. Preliminarily, there would be a shortage of land for about 4,000 dwellings, particularly on medium and high density land, which makes sense because we haven't seen as much development on low density land, and a shortage for about 6,000 jobs, particularly for commercial development. If we still have a deficit, as these estimates suggest, the next UGB review would also need to consider more efficiency measure strategies and potentially UGB expansion. However, these estimates will definitely change during the next UGB review due to new state regulations, and we'll also be updating all of the UGB planning assumptions, not just the forecast.
So based on the report findings and review by the ETAC and the Planning Commission, staff recommends the following growth monitoring or planning related actions. So overarching recommendations include comprehensive UGB planning. So not just planning for our housing needs as required by state law, but in light of recent forecasts for job growth, to also plan for other land needs such as jobs, parks, schools, and infrastructure. To continue monitoring the effectiveness of efficiency measures, both for housing and employment. So considering how they might be more effective, whether they need funding, and if there are other measures the city can pursue. Looking at infrastructure needs, so prioritizing the extension of capital projects to provide services to undeveloped residential areas within the UGB, which is consistent with the housing implementation pipeline, as well as continuing to plan for infrastructure and service improvements for the Clear Lake UGB expansion area for employment land. Specifically related to housing, supporting the housing implementation pipeline and its goals for addressing the existing underproduction of housing, which includes strategies for more housing for households with low incomes. For middle housing, monitoring the impacts of the land use code changes associated with implementation of House Bill 2001, such as changes to the types and densities of new housing. And then looking at University of Oregon enrollment. So considering how changes in student enrollment projections at the University of Oregon might impact future housing demand for both student and non-student populations, such as types and densities of new dwellings needed. And then finally, employment, looking at market changes, exploring whether employment is still growing and if the need for employment land is also growing, or if less land is needed based on market changes. So for example, for retail, will the increase in online purchasing impact the need for land for retail buildings? So in addition to these recommendations, the end of the report also includes a list of emerging issues.
Using the same general buckets as the recommendations, a few of the big emerging issues that were identified related to growth monitoring or other planning type work are under overarching, the climate-friendly and equitable communities, new state rules that are currently under development, and will add requirements related to compact development and reducing parking rules. Under housing, the housing production strategies and regional housing needs analysis are also new state requirements that will impact how we plan for housing during our next UGB review. And then under employment, will any of the patterns we've seen in recent years change how much land is needed for employment in the future? Oops, sorry about that. Next steps. So next steps for the program, the rest of 2022, you see where we're at in the star in the right-hand corner, will be continued chart development. We need more charts, it turns out. Development of a public-facing data dashboard, and then moving into our first regular cycle of annual reporting, which will be much smaller than what you're looking at today. Next steps for UGB planning. Urban reserves is scheduled to be in front of you later this year. The goal is to have urban reserves in place before the next UGB review. Given the state deadline of the new state deadline of 2026 to adopt a new UGB analysis for housing, and then the recommendation you just heard to plan for all land needs, not just housing land. Over the next year, planning staff will turn attention towards the next UGB review, as well as implementation of the climate-friendly and equitable communities rules. Monitoring data collection will continue so that the data can be as up-to-date as possible for this next UGB review. And finally, a sneak peek at the growth monitoring data dashboard coming soon. The growth monitoring dashboard will live on the city's webpage and cover a handful of key metrics, so not everything in the report. Those include the population and job growth rates that you see on the slide here, as well as metrics regarding housing affordability, building permits, and the buildable land supply. And you can see some of those in the tabs up on the top there. Data will be refreshed periodically, not daily, and will be downloaded from the website, or downloadable from the website. Thank you for your patience. That was long, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. That was long, but actually I was hanging on every word. So it really is so exciting to have this first big chunk of information come to us. And it's so interesting to see what is clear and what isn't clear in this first round of data collection. So if we can get the council up on that, the Zoom up on that screen, then I'll be able to see if counselors are raising their hands to speak. So and that's what I expected to see, Mike and Alan. So go for it, Mike, and then Alan.
Shocking and surprising that he and I would have thoughts on this subject. First, thank you to staff.
They're going to be exactly the same.
Thank you to staff and to all of the committee work and commission work on this. That's a big lift, and I appreciate it very much. The report was very good, and now I'm on 2 channels here. Wow, that's weird. Heather, my first question is, did either ETAC or Planning Commission go through any kind of comparative information to community growth around us? In other words, population growth in Springfield, Coburg, Creswell, Bonita, that sort of thing?
Yep. If you go to or is that all you need to know, or do you want to know where it is on what we found?
I'll find it later, but
Sure.
I was just wondering what sort of conclusions you drew from, and that everyone drew from that, and maybe some of that information.
So on page 19 of the packet, we have well, starting on 18, population of nearby cities, and so nearby Lane County cities. So what we found is that according to the latest PSU forecast, over the next 20 years, Eugene is expected to grow at 0.9%, but over the same period, the two largest nearby communities, Springfield and Cottage Grove, are actually projected to grow slower than Eugene at 0.4% and 0.3% respectively.
How come?
What's that?
How come?
I would have to dig deeper into PSU's population report about that. But I know that I think we talked a little bit about that under the growth rate.
Really what I was looking for with that question is, did those communities outpace the percentage of growth of Eugene during the monitoring period?
So we grew at about 1.2, similar to Cottage Grove. Coburg grew faster. Cresswell grew a little bit faster. Junction City grew faster. Oak Ridge, Springfield, both grew slower.
One of the things I would contend there is that in a lot of those communities, I'm just working in this business, that has to do with affordability, but it also has a lot of other factors that are built into our assumptions. And I think effect on neighboring communities should be a part of further discussions. But again, that's just my opinion. Not for should we be polite to our neighbors, but for what will our assumptions do to displace people, as opposed to, you know, someone who might want to live in Eugene, but they just can't afford it, by golly, so they have a family and they want a yard and you can't afford that here, so they go someplace else. In other words, I'm hoping that the kind of conversation we have in the future around growth helps us have a conversation about character of our community as well. Do we want more families and less single people to live here, or less? That sort of what sort of community, other than just raw numbers, are we building? Secondly, Heather, could you remind me of the percentage of residential land within the current buildable inventory that is currently unserved?
40%.
It's 40? I thought it was 48.
Hold on. 40-ish.
48 was
40 is unannexed. 43 is on sloped lots, and 54 is on lots smaller than 5 acres.
I was looking at the graphic you showed me, I think recently, that 48% is unserved by any kind of pipes in the ground or wires in the ground, any utilities.
On the infographic?
Yeah, there was a chart at the bottom, on bottom left of one of those pages that you had showed me previously when we spoke.
Yeah, I think it's 43. It might be the one that was in the report.
I appreciate that. Either 1 or 2 percentages isn't going to make that much difference for the important point that I want to make to my colleagues. Half of the land that we could build residential housing on, no one can build on right now. Not if they wanted to, because it's not served by any kind of utilities. Half. If there was a bigger goal for us, in order to solve housing shortage, I'm not sure what it would be. We currently have what I would call half of our inventory as phantom inventory, because you can't build anything on it. So that's adding to the problem. And I think a CIP sort of discussion of future investment to be able to do that is incredibly warranted on our part. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Alan, and then Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. Great work, lots of work here. This is, I think it's going to be a very valuable and useful tool. Hats off to all the people that were on the committee. Then Page 16 of the report has the list of them. I won't read them all, but thank you to all those people that were working on it, and plus all the staff. It's dozens and dozens of people and thousands of hours of work. So I love the charts. More charts, great. They're very, very helpful, the infographics. Well, one question I had was, which might be confusing for folks, what's the definition of a dwelling? So if you have 100 apartments and 200 bedrooms, that's 100 dwelling units.
You have yep, it's the apartments. It's not based on the bedrooms.
Right. So, okay, good. So every door.
Every
front
door.
is-
Yep.
Yeah. One of the big issues when we talked about this the very last time under Envision Eugene was the single family, multifamily split. And that, for historical purposes, the reason that was is because that's the one metric that actually moved the dial on whether or not you expand the UGB. And what we settled on was 55% single family, 45% multifamily. In actuality, what we've seen over that of 2012 to 2018 was 72%. So 1.6 times the 45%. How does that impact what's moving forward into the next round of this? Because let me add one more thing, two more things before that you answer that. The deficits in medium and high density residential or multifamily, not single family, in part because I think of this, and then also deficits in commercial, but maybe you can answer my question about how does that split impact all this analysis moving forward?
Right. So when we do the next UGB review, we'll do state law requires us to do the same analysis at this point regarding housing mix. So we would be looking at the types and price points of housing and the demographic changes or not, and past development trends, including housing mix that's in this monitoring report to help us determine what housing mix to use going forward. So we're not determining that now. And in fact, we'll have more data that we can add to the housing mix discussion by the time we do the UGB review, but that will be part of that analysis.
Is the expectation that the multifamily increase is kind of a bubble and then it'll balance back out?
That is, I wish we knew. I mean, I think we even put that comment in our report that somewhere that we've been hearing, right, even during Envision Eugene, that certainly these larger apartment buildings, particularly around the university, we thought that they would slow down, and that was back in 2010, and that really hasn't happened.
At all, yeah.
Even when we looked at back of the envelope regarding the growth rate, population growth rate, and the U of O enrollment rates compared to our housing rates, the enrollment rate was lower than the rate of new development and of new housing. And so it certainly doesn't seem like the enrollment rate is the one thing driving the new housing. That's not the, it doesn't seem to be the case.
I think it's proximity to the university that's driving it, especially the big buildings. But the other deficit is in affordable housing and middle housing. And I was surprised, the median rent's $1,100. But I was surprised to see that income and rent kind of paralleled each other over the same period of time in terms of increase, 31, 32%. So they're roughly the same. But so we're just kind of treading water in terms of not being able to have affordable housing options for people. Backwards.
Yeah, I would say that comes back a little bit to the existing underproduction, or for a simpler way to say it, an existing deficit of housing in the community that's affordable to lower income households. And so we're adding more housing that's affordable to that income bracket, but we already had such a big deficit. I think one of the estimates in the report is we don't have enough. We have a deficit of like 10,000 units for housing that's affordable to folks, households making 25,000 or less. So that's a really huge amount.
Right. Can you bring up slide 16, the buildable land snapshot? While you're doing that, the unserved land, that means no utilities are there. What's that mean? What does it impact? Because I mean, it's expensive to provide services. And so we build to demand, right? So when someone comes in and says we want to build, then the utilities go in. We don't, it's not build it and then they will come, because that's really expensive.
I'm sorry. So the question, I missed the question.
So what does that mean that we have that big of an unserved land? And my second question is, I need an explanation of the buildable land snapshot slide.
Oh, okay. So what that means is that, right, it's part of the reason that when we put these numbers together, we ended up with having mostly a deficit for medium and high density residential land if we were to start UGB planning now, because so much of our lower density land is not served yet. And so it can't develop. And so we're always counting that as part of our land supply until it starts developing. And it's not going to develop until it has the services. So it looks like we always have this land supply, even though it's not served yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll have another question on that in my second round, but
okay,
buildable land snapshot.
And then what did you want me to explain about this one?
I didn't quite understand it all.
Oh, got it. Okay. So we reran the buildable lands inventory to see where our remaining vacant and partially vacant, so larger lots that still have some room for future development. So where are those and how much do we have if we were to start UGB planning today? And so when we did that, what you're seeing, which I failed to say in my comments, is that the yellow are vacant and partially vacant lots that are either low, medium, or high density residential. And then the blue are vacant or partially vacant lots that are commercial or industrial. And so this is just talking about, okay, this doesn't give you the amount of land. You can see it on the map, but it's saying, and then what is the status of this land, which is that really we have a lot of land that is unannexed, and until it annexes, it's not going to develop. And this is not an exact proxy for that land not being served, but it's a pretty good proxy that most of the land that's unannexed does not have utilities yet.
Thanks. Mayor, on round two.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Randy, then Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the presentation. And this is really an impressive body of work. One of the things that struck me when I was reading through the whole packet was just, I'm just not seeing a lot in here that I feel is going to help us achieve development of affordable housing. And that does concern me. When I read on page 25 of the packet that 57% of the remaining buildable residential land supply is located on steeper slopes, those are more expensive to develop, obviously. And then I was thinking I saw a higher number in here for buildable land that's unserved, but I'm not finding it. So still taking your 40% figure, it just seems like we've got just a very small percentage of available land in the inventory that can be developed in what I would call affordable or even low income. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so I think that's why one of the recommendations is looking at how we can provide that major capital improvement to bring major trunk lines essentially for wastewater, water, whatever is needed to get to allow development to then do their part with extending lateral lines and things like that to actually develop them. So it seems like infrastructure is one of the big things. And actually we've heard that from other cities as we've been participating in the rulemaking processes with the state, that funding infrastructure is a challenge, and other jurisdictions are seeing a similar issue.
Well, another question along those lines is, and I want to be careful how I tread on this because I know that our wetlands are very important to us, and I know that there's protections for them. But for example, in Ward 8, my ward, I know we have a large swath of a land that's classified as wetlands, yet even in the winter, it looks pretty dry to me, the untrained eye looking at it, and it's surrounded by infrastructure. And what is the potential for contributing to land banks elsewhere that would allow us to serve at least some of this land with existing infrastructure that is nearby?
I have a partial answer to that. As we were developing the development strategy for the Clear Lake expansion area, we've been working with our partners in Parks and Open Space and Natural Resources Planning, and they have, over the past, I want to say 5-ish years, acquired another site for wetland mitigation banking in West Eugene, closer to Fern Ridge Reservoir. And so that is a key part of allowing properties that are wet and designated for development inside the UGB to take advantage of that wetland mitigation program that we have at the city. So at least for the Clear Lake area, that's in motion.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that additional credits are going to be needed to serve all of the land within the UGB.
Well, it just seems with the cost of infrastructure extension, SDCs and whatnot, that whatever we can reasonably develop within the existing footprint would be advantageous from a cost standpoint, which would hopefully spur more development. At the same time, I want to be careful we don't just fling a lot of work aside in preserving, important natural resources. But I would be really interested in hearing more about what a balance might look like that would, provide for affordable, buildable land and give us some opportunities there. The other thing, my fire background, I'm always concerned about building in our South Hills. It just puts more structures, more lives, more property in harm's way, potential harm's way. It's harder to serve. It's harder to protect. All the water needs to be pumped uphill. We're burning more fuel going uphill. We're burning brakes coming downhill. It just seems like we need to find more flat or lower, lesser sloped areas to provide some of this buildable land, and especially when it comes to affordable. That's all I have at this time. I'll be interested to hear what my colleagues think about this.
Can I just add one thing about the affordability? One of the recommendations is to support the housing implementation pipeline, specifically paying particular attention to housing for households with lower incomes. And so I mentioned earlier that we may have to look at efficiency measures again. And when we do that, there's an opportunity there to focus those efficiency measures on specific housing types that would be, or other types of incentives that would generate more housing for households with lower incomes. So there are opportunities coming up with the UGB analysis to have a specific focus on affordable housing. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. And I would like to hear more about that.
Thank you. Greg, and then Emily, and then Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the work that's been done. This has been great. As I was going through the packet this weekend, three things kind of jumped out at me, and I'll take these in kind of in order in terms of my questions. So, and one of the things that I was looking for that I didn't find was, do we have a specific projection from the university about how many students are they anticipating their growth to come to? Are we looking at an additional 10,000 students? Are they looking to push to 34,000 or 30,000? What are those numbers looking like? And what is the development plan for the North Campus?
Yeah, wish I had that number off the top of my head. There is a footnote in here somewhere about U of O enrollment, and actually a link to their website that has that information and what their forecasts are. I want to say it's like 1.1 I think it's very similar actually to our population growth rate, 1.2% or something like that. So it's moderate growth. And then they also have a goal of accommodating 25% of their population, I believe, of enrollment on site, which I don't think that on campus, which I don't think that they've met yet. And so my understanding is they still have plans for meeting that goal. And so when we do our UGB planning work the next time, like we did last time, we check back in with them and see, we get their updated forecasts and see if there's additional land needs that they're going to need to accommodate their goals.
Okay, so my understanding is they already own that property that is essentially where the North Campus is supposed to be developed. I'm just trying to get a sense of how many more students are they going to add, and then basically how much more infrastructure are they going to be growing in those areas?
Sure.
To accommodate that.
So on page 6 of the agenda item summary in the report from November of 2020, the U of O projected moderate growth rate of undergraduate enrollment of 2, I knew there was a 2 in there, 2 to 2.5% until 2026, and then stabilizing enrollment levels after that.
Okay.
So that wasn't specific to the area and where, whether or not they need additional land or not, or how they're going to meet their goals. But we have those discussions when we do the UGB analysis.
Okay. Second question, and I'll go back and look at that again too. The LCC basin. What are we looking at in terms of residential development in that area, and the potential for growth in that area in terms of multi-unit, multifamily housing?
Yeah, so I think you might be referring to the Urban Reserves project, which will be in front of you later this year. So Rebecca Gershow is the project manager on that. So you'll have the opportunity to revisit the assumptions regarding housing and employment, and what I think it's a 27-year study area is looking at for accommodating 27 years after our existing UGB.
I think that if I recall, we had a meeting a few months ago where that's what we landed on, was 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that expansion. I'm wondering if over the next few years that there's opportunity to expand that area to be able to accommodate some of our needs for affordable housing and access to commercial and retail amenities in that area.
The first step would be adopting the urban reserves, and they come in as all one thing. So they're adopted as an urban reserve for future UGB expansion projects. They're not pre-planned for one type of housing or commercial use at that first step. So that would be part of a later conversation when you revisit the urban growth boundary analysis.
And the LCC basin, if I'm correct, is still in the county, correct?
It is.
Okay, all right. So we have to do some other things there. And my last question is going back to what you just talked about, Terry, with the urban reserves for the Clear Lake area. because I'm just looking at some things that we had in an earlier meeting about development of single family and other residential development on the other side of
Greg, you're
Green Hill
over.
Road. Or I can continue. I'll take another round, Mayor.
Okay, that would make sense. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Emily and then Claire.
Thank you. This is really big. I haven't gotten through all the appendices, but they actually are pretty interesting. I also like charts. First, a kind of basic question. What's the difference between R2 minimum density, medium and high density? How does that fit in with the R1 that is no more? Is that R1 now R2? So I'm wondering what the differences are.
So, so the art, and I mean, tell me if I don't answer your question and what you're looking for. So, R1 still has the densities, in it, and we're not changing those densities through monitoring. We're just monitoring what kind of densities we're seeing. And so R1, still low density residential, is that zone and plan designation. And then R2 is the next step up for density, for the density range. And R2 implements the medium density plan designation. Is that what you're looking for, those two differences? Or is there something you saw in the report?
How do I know if I have an R2, which one it's in? Are these zones that are, does my house, is this a minimum, medium, and high is just how it all works out? And then you say, okay, this number, this number, this number, this is, I mean, it's not like it's, 14 houses per acre or this much density. It's what you're seeing from the report.
So we're coming up with the averages that we're seeing for development that is zoned or in the plan designation. So we overlay those maps and then we overlay where the new housing is happening. And then we aggregate it all together to figure out how many dwellings we're seeing per acre over all of the lots that developed in, for instance, R2 zone. So that's what the information is that's in here. So we have, 2 GIS mapping layers that give the zoning and the comprehensive plan designation of a property.
So there's not a number that says minimum density is 10 and medium density is 20.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm wanting to know.
Okay. Like what the required, so.
Yeah, well, what's the difference? Like you changed Crow to low density.
Right.
From what? I don't know. And what does that mean? And what's different between that and medium?
Yep. So most of Crow Row was zoned R1, but it actually was plan designated medium density residential. And so we changed part of the acreage, not all of it, to be plan designated low density residential, and some of it stayed medium density residential. And so what that means is that they can develop, when they come in for a building permit, their minimum zoning or the maximum density that they're allowed to do in R1 is 14 dwellings per acre. And in R2, it's
28. But yeah, for this report, it's a look back of how the lands in our inventory have developed. And so there are a lot of averages and comparison to the assumptions we made for growth going forward. But I think some of your questions relate to how we'll look at that in the future. For example, with recent changes with middle housing law, how we look at the split between single family and multifamily will change into the future. But at this point in time, the report that we're going over is monitoring what has happened in the past. I hope that clarifies.
I guess I'll have to ask you later because we're not getting to my answer.
Okay.
We'd be happy to follow up.
So we have this unannexed land in River Road in Santa Clara. Are those close to utilities? I mean, would those be better places to annex than the places that, the ones that don't have utilities?
Yeah, we looked into that. So only 8% of the vacant and partially vacant residential land is actually in the River Road, Santa Clara area. So
What percent?
8,
8, okay.
it's pretty small.
Well, maybe we should go there first. Any idea of how much it's gonna cost? I mean, I don't know, the whole thing or a section to put in utility infrastructure? If we have to put in some of it before we can entice anybody, or what kind of money are we looking at and where can we get it?
Not at this time. We are having those conversations about where infrastructure improvements, starting to study where major infrastructure improvements could happen and how much they would cost. Growth monitoring is, and this is where we struggle with this, growth monitoring is not doing the additional analysis needed to get at some of those questions. It's just kind of taking a temperature check on the status. So how much is annexed, but that second and unannexed, but that next question of how to provide the services would be additional analysis that would be needed. But we are starting to have those conversations.
So the 43% that's sloped and the 40% that's unannexed, and I guess doesn't have services, how much of those are the same? Because if it's already difficult to get it on sloped and it has no utilities, I'm not gonna build there.
Right. I'm not sure that we have that information at our fingertips.
Well, that would
but
be
we can look
interesting
into
because
it.
that takes out of the, what's really available.
Yeah.
We say we have these acres, but some of it is not buildable and the developers are not building on it. And if we also have to put in infrastructure, I don't know why it's in the inventory, which may make things look even worse. I think that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Claire, and then Jennifer.
Thanks. I don't have a lot of questions, some observations, and just making sure what I'm kind of validating what I thought I heard. And also a big thank you to our technical advisory group and all of the staff who worked on this and, brought forward this product. 8.5 years ago, we took a vote, all right? That's what you said? I think I participated in that vote and was like, oh yeah, one day we'll get a big fat report, right? Here it is. So some of the things I heard you say that what we're seeing now with the data we have available, that we're kind of keeping pace with our population growth in terms of housing, but we're not getting ahead of the deficit that we've had for several years, probably since the Great Recession, in terms of having enough housing for current population and future. And we're also not necessarily seeing the types of housing being built that might best fit individual household needs. And I also heard you say that housing costs in neighboring communities went up higher than our housing costs did here. And then I noted that on one of the attachment C infographics that we had forecast for 55 dwellings from our affordable housing land bank sites, and we actually built 154, so 99 more than forecast. So that's a gain there. So I just want to observe, there's so many things influencing this process and so many assumptions that are poured into it that have been impacted by many things. Amongst the most significant, I think, is the pandemic, which, may have had an impact on the employment piece of how things have played out in the last couple of years, in addition to housing. And then the mandates that, we're expecting, which you called out on the list from the climate-friendly rulemaking, that's just going to throw a whole other layer of new factors into this work and how our assumptions play out. So I just think there's so many variables that, we just need to be mindful of those and recognize that numbers are gonna get skewed because of that. I did have one question, and I don't think you need to bring up the slide, but on slide 13, it said new dwellings on vacant or partially vacant land was at 54% and new dwellings on developed land at 41. That equals 95. What's happened on the other 5%?
Well, we actually did see some dwellings on committed land, and committed land is land that is owned by a public entity, which is not surprising. It's actually we have public entities or even including the city that will own land and then work through for affordable housing, work with affordable housing developers to develop that land. But at the time we ran the buildable lands inventory, it might have been city owned, even though we knew that that was the intent for housing. We have seen some housing on what the buildable lands inventory identifies as protected land. So there's a wide, it doesn't mean that we're seeing housing in wetlands, but we do consider land over 30% slope as quote unquote protected, because we really just don't see a lot of housing above that. And I think we probably did see a little bit of housing there. So we have developed, vacant, partially vacant, and then committed and protected.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jennifer and then Matt.
Thanks. So I don't really have a lot of questions, but I just really quick wanted to thank all the staff for all the incredible amount of work that has gone into this, and for everyone on the ETAC. I'm so glad Kevin's here today, but it sounds like he's not going to talk. So I'm just going to say how thankful all of us on ETAC were for staff and your willingness to answer a million questions and have conversations very similar to what we're having today. Some of the same conversations happened at ETAC as well, and how staff was always so thoughtful in those conversations and just looked for ways to be able to address the concerns that people had. And I think everyone on the committee can see the impact that they made on this report through those suggestions. And that's always the best way to come out of a volunteer opportunity, is to be able to see your impact. And I think it's really visible when you look at it from our point of view. So I just wanted to thank you for all your incredible work. And this has been a very interesting conversation so far. So I guess one question is, we're all so interested, and obviously this conversation is going to take more time. And so when can we expect to be back with you guys again on this?
I was not anticipating that question. So this is the first comprehensive report, which was the direction from council to deliver that. And then the goal is to do an annual report every year after that. So what I'm anticipating is that we'll do an annual report for 2022, and that we'll have to work that through the technical advisory committee, present that to planning commission, and then come back to city council with your first annual report. And so ideally that would be in, the spring, late spring sometime.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you so much for the presentation and wealth of information. And I want to kind of pick up what Councilor Groves and Councilor Semple were putting down. I'm keenly interested in focusing on the flat land, the unannexed land, in particular that 8% in River Road and Santa Clara. And why that is, it's concerning that it's not 8% of or I'm assuming it's 8% of the 40% of the remaining residential land supply that's unannexed, which I'm interpreting as 32% of that unannexed land would be likely on sloped land in the South Hills in particular. Is that an accurate assessment? Am I are my back of the napkin numbers accurate?
So 40% is unannexed, 8% of that 40% is in River Road, Santa Clara. I don't have the information about the overlap of how much is sloped and unannexed, but we can get you guys that information.
Thank you. I'd be very interested in seeing that, the percentage of sloped, difficult to build, unannexed, no utilities land, for a variety of reasons. I want to make it really clear, it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone that I'm vehemently opposed to expanding the UGB in the South Hills. I appreciate Councilor Groves mentioning the fire safety, public safety piece. Those wooded natural areas are extremely important to our community's quality of life. Vegas and I ran across a couple toppled trash cans the other night, and there was a confirmed, Santa Pat confirmed to me that there was indeed a bear sighting in our neighborhood. We were already encroaching into our wooded areas too much. So I would push back on any potential development on our sloped land in the South Hills. If I could shift the conversation slightly to student housing, you mentioned that student housing is outpacing student enrollment. What mechanisms, if any, are in place to encourage or incentivize a mix of student and senior and or single family occupancy of newly constructed student housing?
Sorry, so housing in general is outpacing student enrollment, not just student, because we don't actually have very good numbers as far as what is student housing other than dorms. We've done our best to flag what new housing appears to be student focused or student oriented is what we called it in the report. And so that was 35% of multifamily. Yeah, it's hard to put a definition on what student housing is. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. And can you repeat the actual question?
Well, the congregate housing piece, you mentioned
yeah.
the jails,
Yep.
senior
Nursing
housing,
homes.
nursing homes, and student dormitories. Are there incentives in place or mechanisms to encourage said student housing being more broadly utilized for residents of all backgrounds throughout our community?
I am not aware of any, and I'm seeing that no, there is not.
I would like there to be. I think that would be a welcome conversation. So perhaps that's a work session topic for the future. So we're having supply needs, and there's housing available. Why would we just limit said housing to a student population when we have families and occupants of all income levels who might want to live along Franklin, who might want to live among a student population? It may be more affordable and more accessible to a variety of amenities. So I think that's a healthy and welcome conversation to have, and I certainly prefer that to expanding our UGB in our South Hills and our farmlands. Thanks.
Thank you. And I have Mike and Alan each wanting a second round, so take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, and great job, Terry, on the mitigation land swap opportunity that you were mentioning. Great work to get that going. There's or at least I was trying to draw in my initial comments, a pretty large distinction between unannexed and unserved when I was asking about those numbers. To bring up what Matt said, would I be correct, Heather, in assuming that most of the unannexed properties in River Road and Santa Clara are currently served? In other words, there's a pipe and a wire that they can connect to if they annexed into the city.
Well, first I want to say that we did not do a serviceability analysis when we did the monitoring report. So we were using unannexed as a proxy. So that makes a lot of sense of making that distinction, that we don't actually know what is unserved, but we know from earlier UGB analysis what is unserved, and there is a clear relationship. I think that is probably true, that quite a bit of the unannexed River Road, Santa Clara area actually does have services.
I was trying to draw the distinction between River Road and Santa Clara, which I have for years advocated the council create a policy to welcome folks to annex in because the stuff's already in the ground and they can annex into the city without the capital costs. We should invite them and talk about that again later. But am I correct in assuming that the vast majority of land that isn't served by any nearby utilities of any kind is up Bertelson Crow Road area up into what is essentially South Hills?
Definitely Crow Road. There's some pockets in Bailey Hill. There's, yeah, right. I think South Hills is a fair distinction. There are some areas in, I want to say north, east Eugene, upper, around the edges of the UGB, really.
But the vast majority of our buildable lands that we need to address how to get something built there is in the South Hills.
For housing.
For housing, correct.
For
yeah.
housing.
So it sounds like we have council work to do to figure out how to either replace those with other buildable lands or to find ways to serve them. Because right now we have a huge chunk that's phantom inventory nobody's building on, and the housing crisis is getting worse. Number two, I would say the area around the university is really interesting to me because in the early 2000s, that's when a bunch of new students arrived, but there wasn't housing for them. So they kind of moved into the neighborhoods more. And now we're building all the housing and they're moving back towards the campus, or we hope so over time. That'll leave some openings there. But now with the work that we've done, I suspect that most of those will be torn down and built with multi-unit things that will be much more expensive. Our policies with this UGB adoption we did were all towards infill. And it was incentivizing infill. And that's why we see the numbers that much more development has been done on lands that were already considered full because it's redevelopment. And one of the things that creates housing that's affordable for people to buy and afford that are not super expensive is when you take advantage of economies of scale and build many houses in an area at the same time. And we can't do that without making sure that our land that is available within the buildable inventory can be built.
Mike, I need to cut you off. Okay, thanks. All right, Alan and then Greg, and just remind both of you, we have 5 minutes, so.
Yeah, so I want to drill down a little deeper into the infrastructure issue. One could walk away from this conversation and think that the whole problem is that there's no infrastructure and therefore we can't build anything, either commercial or residential. And so it's really an infrastructure problem, which I don't necessarily think is the case. Maybe you could talk about who's responsible for providing the services of utilities when development wants to occur and what happens before. I mean, like it's a balancing case. So we don't do it all at once because it would be hundreds of millions of dollars and we can't necessarily afford that. And so we do it on a as demand needed basis. I remember Springfield did some Bancroft lots, which is a mechanism where they sold bonds, built the infrastructure, and it took years and years and years before they sold those lots and recouped the investment. But and then nobody ever did that again because that wasn't a very smart thing to do, I don't think. But maybe you could talk about this infrastructure issue a little bit more.
At the risk of providing bad information, I will just say at a very high level that, the city goes through a capital improvement or has a 5-year capital improvement plan. And that's where our big projects, that's my technical word, our big, trunk line projects, things like that, that bring major capacity to areas. So that development can then pay for the additional lines that come off the trunk lines that serve the individual development. And so my understanding is that the upfront cost to do capital generally for capital improvements is so high that you're typically not going to see a developer pay those costs upfront. It just does not pencil out. And so I think the city has a number of ways that we fund infrastructure, including SDCs, which are paid by developers. But I think that that's the struggle that we're in right now is a bit of a catch-22 is that that it costs so much for that initial main infrastructure And we have to make choices about where we're going to put that money. Where is that initial big infrastructure going to go? And with that, I would suggest more information from our public works staff.
Yeah, if we could get more, we don't have time. So that would be something I'd like to get more information about. But I just wanted to finish off by saying that there's a lot of positive that came out of this information that we got today. For instance, jobs grew much faster, 2 times faster than projected. We added 20,000 jobs. The poverty level in 2012 was at 27%. Now it's 17%. It dropped pretty dramatically. The cost burden of people for housing has decreased. That's a good thing. And we've seen an relatively equal increase in income and rent at the same time, at the same rates of 30, 31, and 32%. So we're treading water on that one, and that's not a bad thing. I thought it would probably be the opposite. So I put it in the good category, but there's lots of good stuff that came out of this information that's looking good. There's several key issues we need to focus on, but there's some good stuff in here too. Some good news in here. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you. Greg?
Thanks, Mayor. I want to go back to something that Terry, that you mentioned earlier about the wetlands mitigation trade-off between our developments or potential developments over in the Clear Lake area. And most specifically, I'm interested in what that is going to look like in that 27-year window that we agreed upon in terms of developing single-family residential west of Green Hill. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So there's a couple different things or timeframes that in what you're talking about. So for the Clear Lake expansion area that's currently inside the UGB, there is a wetland mitigation site that was purchased by Parks to serve development that needs mitigation credits in order to fill wetlands that are allowed to be filled by state and federal agencies. So city plays a role, so do the state and federal agencies around wetland permitting and mitigation. Outside the current UGB, we're still in the process of working on urban reserves. And so you'll see that later this year. Once it's adopted, we can start looking into whether it makes sense during our UGB analysis to bring another area in. And you're right that that's where some of the flatter land is within our urban reserves area.
Okay. All right. That helps clear up a little bit of mud for me. Thanks.
Thank you. So Mike, I see your hand raised for a third round. I'll give you a minute, but not for another long round. Do it short.
Thank you, Mayor. First question, do we have a state obligation under any ordinance, under any statute when it comes to major trunk line infrastructure and complying with our, with requirements around developable land?
Yeah, when we adopt our urban growth boundary, we have to show that either the land is served or that our public facilities plan includes the projects, the major projects to serve the areas that we're counting in the inventory.
Is that the case right now that we have that project identified in CIP?
Yes.
Excellent news.
In the CIP, in the public facilities plan, which is a longer term document.
And we just haven't identified funding.
Correct.
Is there second kind of whole different area kind of looking forward? Is there anything in the CFEC or in the House Bill 2003 requirements that gives you heartburn looking at this report?
I mean,
and that's for Terry too, by the way, if she wants to jump in.
I mean, mostly this report is looking at what our development trends have been, and the climate friendly and all the new rulemaking that's coming out, including middle housing, is about how we plan for the future. So I think there's room to revisit things as we move forward.
I'm wondering if you have grave concerns of any kind, because, that should take precedence over others.
That what should take precedence?
I said, I'm wondering if you have any grave concerns over our capacity to comply, specifically with House Bill 2003, that when you look at what we've done, you have concern.
No, I don't have concerns. I think we're on track, and Heather's sitting on 2 different state committees to help the state understand some of the challenges that cities are facing trying to implement the new laws, and our housing team as well is going to be part of that conversation because it intersects with the HIP quite significantly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to round this up and, echo a couple of comments and recognizing that there's so much more information to come and that we're going to hear from you now on an annual basis with that information. And as we talk about available buildable lands, the 2 things that strike me first are the demographics, which is that we tend to have our fast growing group are the older folks and our predominant population are the younger folks, which actually are sort of the targeted populations for middle housing. And that we don't yet know what impact the middle housing code is going to have in terms of how existing land is redeveloped within our current growth boundary. So by this time next year, there might be a little insight into that, not a lot, but you already have some insight on ADUs. So a lot of, as Claire said, there's still a lot of confounding variables here that we don't really have the information for, but I am so interested in this report. It's such an incredible body of work, and it really, I think, has helped council sort of highlight what are the emerging questions that we want to look at going forward. So thank you very, very much, everyone who is involved in this work, and for a very clear, wonderful explanation and response to all our questions. And with that, we are adjourned. Oh, no. Sorry, thank you. Almost closed out without doing that. Go for it, Claire.
They would have been very disappointed.
They would have been. Yes, somebody would have caught me.
Move to accept the Envision Eugene Growth Monitoring Comprehensive Report 2012 through 2021.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we put that on gallery so I can see all of the counselors? Okay. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Counselor Groves.
I can't see Groves, but he must have his hand up.
Got his hand up.
Okay, thank you. 8. Thank you so much. There we go. That's the view I need. Thank you. That passes. And with that, we are adjourned.